Good morning and welcome to today's verse. Today's verse comes to us from Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21, that says, there are many plans in a man's heart, but the Lord's purpose shall stand. The way we might say that in a very modern way, and that is that you can make all the plans you want to, but in the end, God will get the last word. In other words, his purpose shall prevail. Now, I struggle a little bit with this particular verse because you could look at it and say that, well, why plan? Why have any aspirations whatsoever? Because in the end, God is going to do what God is going to do the way that he wants to do it. So why does it matter? And I don't think that's what this verse really means to us today. I think that God has a desire. He has birthed in us the desire to be able to look beyond today and into the future. And he has purposed in us, I believe, a desire to grow in knowledge and understanding more and more of who he is and to be in his will. And sometimes, we can plan out things. We can think that we're moving in a direction that would honor him and glorify him. And sometimes it's hard to separate really what we think we ought to be based upon position versus who we ought to be. And God, I believe, is helping us to grow to be the best version of who we are to his glory. And what I mean by that, as best as I can explain it, that is that I remember when God called me into ministry and I was in seminary. And I remember my seminary professor, Dr. Joe Page, who's gone on to be with the Lord now. Dr. Page, he went around the room, he asked all of us young aspiring preachers and teachers and pastors or whatever it was, what is it that we feel that the Lord is calling us to do, to be? And everybody seemed to have a quick answer. Oh, he's calling me to be a pastor or an evangelist, or I'm going to be this great missionary. And he got to me and I felt like a dummy because I said, Doc, I really don't know. All I want to do is to be used by God, wherever God would have me to be. I just did not know. And along the course, and I was in the Army at the time, I was on active duty. And from time to time, Dr. Page would talk to me. And then one day he said to me, because I was talking about just getting out of the Army, I figured, well, God has called me in the ministry. I need to get out and I need to serve in a church somewhere. And I remember one day, Dr. Page, he stopped and he just looked at me in the middle of the class. He just said, listen, young preacher, let me tell you something. God knew where you were at before he called you. So you need to go ahead and stay in the Army long enough to get some type of retirement, whether it's early or full retirement, whatever, so that it'll make you a better preacher. And I actually laughed when he said that. And I was thinking, Doc, I'm not going to make me a better preacher. He said, listen, let me tell you something. I've been doing this for 60 years. And he said, there's always going to be a certain economics in life. You might think that for some reason that there's going to be if you stay in the Army, that there's going to be a center shortage. He said, you can rest assured there will never be a center shortage. There will always be a need for ministry. So you just hang on in there until God opens the door for you to exit. And I followed that advice, and I thank God that I followed that advice today. But as I go along my journey and have gone along my journey, I look back and I realized that the position I'm in now as a chaplain, God has been shaping and molding me all along the way. It was not necessarily to be a chaplain. It was not necessarily to be at the location I'm at right now. But rather, little by little, God has been shaping and molding me to be the best version of me that he could have me to be, to serve and to honor him, and to learn about the ministry of listening, of coming alongside of someone, to be present with someone. And I can tell you that there are many people based on position have not fully become what God intended them to be. Yes, there are many people out there that are pastors, but do you really have a pastor's heart? I know pastors that don't really like people too much. And yet they're serving in that capacity. Or you're a counselor and yet you don't really know how to be present with someone, how to hear them, and what you want to do is just get it over with and get to the next session. God will mold and shape and develop you. His purposes shall prevail in the end to his glory, to bring you into the person, not so much the position, but in the person that he designed you to be for his glory. All of us have the opportunity to participate in some form of ministry as a child of God. Don't allow your thought and your desire for a certain position to be the ultimate end of the end all things, because God is shaping and molding you little by little to be the person that he designed you to be. If anything that this verse is saying, more than anything this verse is saying, you can trust in the Lord and his purposes will prevail for your good. To God be the glory for the great things he has done. I pray that you would meditate upon this verse. It would be a word of encouragement for you as you go throughout your day. I pray that you would have a safe day. And then tune in again tomorrow. Yes, as we consider today's verse. Amen.